Responsive visualizations. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We're going to use all the infrastructure that we've built up to create this page where there are these three visualizations embedded. And they are all responsive to resize. So notice how they shift and the tick density remains consistent. Let's say you want to embed your visualizations inside existing web pages, and you want them to be responsive. Let's apply the same techniques from this responsive axes example to our scatter plot, our bar chart, and our line chart. And I'll call it responsive scatter plot. In the code, I believe we can import the responsive logic from this responsive axes example because we exported observe resize. In this responsive scatterplot example, let me try import observe resize from. I want to import it from this example. Oh, but I haven't set up a custom URL yet. I'll call it responsive axes. And now I should be able to import from here in my responsive scatterplot. And to check if it worked, I'll say console.log observe resize. And sure enough, there it is. All right, that's how you can import a reusable function across Vizzes. Now let's use it. First of all, let's review how it is used over here. We invoke observe resize to get our dimensions. And then if dimensions is null, we return. And then we destructure width and height from our dimensions. This is the same exact logic we need in our responsive scatterplot. So I will paste that here and comment out our old code for getting width and height. And also we need to make state and set state available here. And now it should be responsive. Let me see. And it is. Look at that. Brilliant. Okay, that's how we can retrofit an existing visualization to respond to resize. Now let's do the next part of those density-based ticks. See, with the y-axis here, as it gets smaller, it should automatically change to be fewer tick marks. To do that, we can go over to viz.js and use the other functions that were exported from responsive axes, namely this top-level axes function. Over in responsive scatterplot, we can import axes from this same one, the responsive axes example. And then let's see how is that function invoked. Oh, that's over in viz.js. Axes is invoked like this. So I can just copy that whole invocation. And I think this will simplify things because instead of having all of these calls, we will just have the one call to axes. And now it should have those density-based ticks. And it does. Would you look at that? In both directions too, I think. Let's see. Yep. All right, that's how we can make a responsive scatterplot with density-based ticks. Now let's go ahead and actually embed that in a different web page. We can click on Share here and get this modal where we can click Embed and copy this iframe snippet. And let me go over to my other viz here, this article starter, and I will paste that into the README. And there's the embedded scatterplot. The embed does have a link so you can get back to the viz, but let me just remove that and say embed is not branded. Now it's just embedded like so. And it should be responsive. Let me check. If I resize it, oh, it's not. It's not responsive. Hold on. Let me try setting width to be 100% on the iframe. Now it should be responsive, and it is. Okay, great. Great, great, great. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same for the bar chart and the line chart. I will fork this simple bar chart, and I'll call it responsive bar chart. And I'll use this responsive scatter plot as a reference for how we can import and use things. In our responsive bar chart, let me paste that same import at the top, import observe resize, and then I'll copy this usage of that function, which will replace our existing width and height calculation. And again, we need to make state and set state available here, like this. And then over in viz.js, we can do the same thing we do in the scatter plot, which is import axes from responsive axes, and then invoke that with all of its options. And that will replace a bunch of different function calls that we had before. And now we should have a responsive bar chart. Let's see. Okay. It seems to work just fine. It looks like there's some kind of a dangling console.log. So let me fix that in the responsive axes. There it is. So I'll get rid of that. And then now, in the responsive bar chart, we should be seeing no logs in the console. Okay, great. All right, there's our responsive bar chart. Last but not least, the responsive line chart. I will fork this simple line chart and call it responsive line chart. Then we import observe resize. We leverage it to compute our dimensions. We make state and set state available. And then in viz.js, we import axes instead of all those other functions. And then we invoke that axes function instead of all those other ones. And now we should have a responsive line chart. Okay, that seems to work just fine. All right, that's how you make a responsive line chart. Let me now embed the responsive bar chart and the responsive line chart into the same page. For the responsive bar chart, I'll click on Share, Embed, copy that snippet, go into my article starter, paste that snippet, modify it a little bit to remove the link, the branded link, and also I'll make width 100% so that it is responsive. And the structure is the same for all of these, so I'll just copy paste that and change the ID to be the ID of our responsive line chart. And now we have an article that has these three visualizations embedded within it. And we can use the dev tools to check that it is responsive. So all of these visualizations respond to resize pretty smoothly. And notice how it actually squeezes the content of the visualization, because the way that we coded it, the width and height sort of trickled down into the scales and into everywhere that we need to use the dimensions. And here's a challenge for you. Fork this article starter and embed your favorite responsive works. And by the way, these embed snippets should work in pretty much any place where you can edit HTML and put some code in there, like WordPress sites, maybe, if you enable it, or Drupal sites, or any existing web application. So yeah, see if that works for you. Thanks for watching, and good luck.